Hey, Steve Stine from Guitar Zoom here. Today we're going to be talking about legato playing. We're really just going to focus on two things today, what we call hammer-ons and pull-offs and how to do them. So let's start off with what a hammer-on is. Now a hammer-on is when you play a note and you want to go to a higher note on the guitar, and instead of picking that note, what we do is we actually hammer the note that we want with the finger that we're using. So for instance, if I was on 5 and I'm going to 7, I'd probably use my ring finger for that. So instead of just setting the finger down, what I literally want to do is hammer, smack that finger down to get the sound that I want. Now in doing so, sometimes what happens is you'll get a bunch of unwanted noise from the other strings around you. So you want to be aware, practicing this sort of thing, to try and deaden out the strings that you don't want. So for instance, if I'm on this 5 and I want to go to this 7, I'm not using the first and second strings, so I'm going to kill those strings with my index finger. I'm just going to touch those lightly because it's sitting here anyway. I could just touch those and it'll deaden those strings. And then I have the strings above me. Well, I might use this hand to kind of do some deadening there, just to try and keep everything as clean as possible. So what I want to try and do is get used to being able to hit that finger down and create a pitch, create a note that's roughly the same volume as the note that I picked. If I hit it and it doesn't make as much sound, and again, it's kind of hard for me to do that, but if I hit it and it doesn't have as much sound, maybe what I need to do is hit it a little bit harder. Now, you don't need to hit it any harder than you need to. Once you develop the technique, hitting it even harder isn't going to do any good. You just need to find how much you need to actually smack that finger down to get the sound that you want. That's what a hammer-on is. We could practice, for instance, just taking a scale like the pentatonic scale. And you could practice just doing hammer-ons. Okay? Now, it doesn't just need to be your first finger and third finger. You could use any finger you want. So, for instance, I might go from 5 to 6. And in this case, I'd be using my middle finger. Or 5 to 7. 5 to 8. Or 5, 7, and 8. So I can use combinations of hammer-ons. Right? Whatever it might be. And it doesn't always need to start with the first finger either. The point is, whatever your scale is and you're trying to do this hammer-on, you're going to move from whatever you picked to something else. Okay? So 5 to 7 or 6 to 8 or 12 to 15, whatever it is that you're doing. But the goal is to get that hammer technique, being able to smack that finger down. That's what a hammer-on is. Now, if we take and go the opposite direction, and I go, for instance, from 7 to 5, then I'm doing what's called a pull-off, and this is quite a bit different. So I'm going to pluck the 7, but in order to get the note of the 5, what I need to do is take that ring finger that's pressing down right now, and I literally need to kind of flick it, almost like a guitar pick would do. If you think about the action of a guitar pick, it pushes through that string to get the sound. Well, I'm already on here, so what I need to do is kind of flick that string. So I'm not just taking the finger off, but I'm literally giving it a little flick with my finger. See that? And you can see how if you're not deadening those strings, they're going to start making a bunch of noise. You're going to get that kind of thing. So you want to try and deaden the strings around you as much as possible. So you can do hammer-ons going forward and pull-offs going backward. And you just want to get used to the technique of being able to hammer that finger down. Now there's some techniques that you could practice, some exercises that you could practice, develop this a little bit. So what we can do is, for instance, practice hammering and then pulling off. So in this situation, maybe I pick the first time to get the string started, but from then I don't need to keep picking. I could do that with any finger. And it doesn't always need to start with your first finger. You might go to your middle finger and practice going to your ring finger. Or your pinky. You might put your third finger down and practice to your pinky. So you can see how this technique can be made into an exercise so you can strengthen your fingers as well as your ability of being able to do these hammer-ons and pull-offs. Now, when we do a series of hammer-ons and pull-offs together, like I'm doing right now, there's a name for that. It's called a trill. So I might be playing something, and I go into something like that. That's called a trill, where I'm doing a series of hammer-ons and pull-offs back and forth. And that's kind of a fun thing that you can practice too. But of course, in order to do that, you have to have developed the hammer-ons and the pull-offs. All right? Thank you so much for joining me. I just wanted to remind you, GuitarZoom now has what we call the GuitarZoom Academy, which are hyper-focused one-on-one lessons that you can take with some really amazing guitar instructors around the world, where we kind of suss out whatever your goals are and give you a really wonderful, positive experience with guitar lessons that are, again, hyper-focused on what it is that you're trying to do, what your goals are, and how we can help you attain those goals. So if you're interested, do me a favor, check out the GuitarZoom Academy by heading over to GuitarZoom.com.